In the realm of naval warfare, there's a saying, "Whoever rules the waves rules the world." For centuries, this meant having the biggest, most powerful battleships. The Yamato was the epitome of this philosophy, a titan of the seas that cost $1.5 billion to build and boasted guns that could fire shells weighing as much as a small car. But on April 7, 1945, this long-held belief was shattered. In a single engagement, the mightiest battleship ever built was reduced to a smoking wreck by swarms of aircraft. How did this happen? And what did it mean for the future of naval warfare? The year is 1941. On a secret naval base in Japan, hidden from prying eyes and American spy planes, a monster is taking shape. This is no mythical creature, but a beast of steel and fire destined to rule the waves. The Yamato, namesake of the ancient Japanese province, is about to become the largest and most powerful battleship ever constructed. As workers toil day and night, the massive hull of the Yamato slowly emerges from the mist of secrecy. At 862 feet long and displacing 72,000 tons, this Leviathan dwarfs even the largest American battleships of the era. The USS Iowa, pride of the U.S. Navy, would look like a mere destroyer next to this floating fortress. But it's not just size that sets the Yamato apart. Its main armament consists of 9 46-centimeter guns, the largest ever mounted on a warship. These behemoths can hurl shells weighing as much as a small car over 25 miles with devastating accuracy. A single salvo from these guns could obliterate an entire city block. To protect this formidable firepower, the Yamato boasts armor so thick it seems impenetrable. Its main belt is 16 inches of hardened steel, designed to shrug off the heaviest shells from enemy battleships. The main gun turrets are protected by 26 inches of armor, making them virtually invulnerable to any known weapon. As the Yamato nears completion, Japanese naval strategists believe they have created the ultimate weapon of sea power. In their minds, this super battleship embodies centuries of naval doctrine. Whoever has the biggest guns and the strongest armor will dominate the seas. The Yamato, they reason, will be able to engage entire enemy fleets single-handedly, its massive guns outranging and overpowering any opposition. But even as the Yamato's imposing silhouette rises above the shipyard, a new threat is emerging from the skies. American aircraft carriers, once considered mere support vessels for the mighty battleships, are proving their worth in the early stages of the Pacific War. Their planes can strike from hundreds of miles away, beyond the range of even the Yamato's massive guns. The Japanese Admiralty, however, remains convinced of the battleship's supremacy. They keep the Yamato's existence a closely guarded secret, believing that its unveiling will strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. Little do they know that their prized weapon, this floating fortress of steel, represents the twilight of an era in naval warfare. As the Yamato finally slips into the water in August 1940, it embodies both the pinnacle and the end of battleship design. Its massive guns and impenetrable armor are a testament to human ingenuity and engineering prowess. Yet, even as it begins its sea trials, the writing is on the wall. The age of the battleship is coming to a close, and a new era of naval warfare is dawning. As the Yamato's imposing silhouette faded into the mists of secrecy, a different kind of weapon was being perfected across the vast expanse of the Pacific. In hangars and on flight decks, American engineers and pilots were honing the edge of a revolutionary force that would reshape naval warfare forever. The year was 1942, and while Japanese strategists still clung to the belief in battleship supremacy, the United States Navy was embracing a new doctrine centered on the aircraft carrier. The contrast couldn't have been starker. On one side, the Yamato, a behemoth of steel and fire, designed to dominate the seas with its massive guns and impenetrable armor. On the other, seemingly fragile aircraft that could be swatted from the sky by a well-placed shell. Yet it was these nimble fighters and bombers that would ultimately prove to be the undoing of even the mightiest surface ships. At the heart of this aerial arsenal were three key aircraft: the Curtiss SB 2C Helldiver, the Vought F-4U Corsair, and the Grumman TBF Avenger. Each played a crucial role in the evolving strategy of carrier-based warfare. The Helldiver, a dive bomber capable of delivering a 2,000-pound payload with pinpoint accuracy, could pierce the deck armor of even the largest battleships. The Corsair, with its distinctive gull wings, provided fighter cover and ground attack capabilities. But it was the Avenger that would prove to be the most lethal threat to ships like the Yamato. The Avenger torpedo bomber carried a weapon that struck fear into the hearts of surface ship commanders, the Mark 13 Mod 9 torpedo. This fish-shaped instrument of destruction packed a warhead equivalent to 400 kilograms of TNT, designed to penetrate the water at a specific angle for maximum effectiveness against a ship's vulnerable underwater sections. However, the development of these weapons was not without its challenges. Many torpedoes were initially set at incorrect running depths, a factor that would prove crucial in future engagements. As U.S. naval aviators trained relentlessly to perfect their craft, a strategic shift was taking place in the highest echelons of command. The ability to project air power over vast distances, made possible by the aircraft carrier, was recognized as a game-changing advantage. This realization was not lost on some forward-thinking officers. One commander astutely observed the irony that by attacking Pearl Harbor with carriers in 1941, the Japanese had inadvertently hastened the obsolescence of battleships, even before the Yamato was delivered to their fleet. The evolution of naval air power brought with it new tactics and strategies. Pilots learned to coordinate their attacks, with fighters clearing the way for bombers and torpedo planes. They practiced low-level approaches to avoid radar detection and perfected the art of hitting a moving target from the air. These skills would prove invaluable in the confrontations to come. As 1945 dawned, the stage was set for a clash that would rewrite naval doctrine. The U.S. Navy's air arm had matured into a lethal force, capable of striking far beyond the horizon with devastating effect. Yet questions remained. Could these aircraft, for all their advancements, truly overcome the raw power and armor of a ship like the Yamato? And would the challenges with torpedo depth settings be resolved in time to make a difference? As the calendar turned to April 1945, the once mighty Japanese empire teetered on the brink of collapse. Allied forces closed in from all sides, and the outcome of the war seemed all but certain. Yet in this darkest hour, Japanese high command conceived one last, desperate gambit. Their ultimate weapon, the battleship Yamato, would be unleashed in a final suicidal mission that would test the limits of both man and machine. The plan was as audacious as it was hopeless. Yamato, accompanied by a small escort of destroyers, would steam towards Okinawa and beach itself on the island's shores. From this position, it would unleash its massive guns against the American invasion force until every last shell was spent and every crew member had fallen. It was a mission with no return ticket, a testament to the dire straits in which Japan found itself. As news of the operation spread through the ranks, a pall fell over the Yamato's crew. These men, who had once sailed with pride aboard the mightiest warship ever built, now faced the grim reality of their impending doom. Yet, bound by duty and the warrior code of Bushido, they steeled themselves for the task ahead. In the days leading up to their departure, the ship buzzed with activity. Extra ammunition was loaded, non-essential equipment stripped away, and final letters home were penned. On April 6, 1945, under the command of Admiral Seiichi Ito, the Yamato and her escort of 8 destroyers slipped out of Japan's inland sea. The weather was ominous, with low broken clouds hanging heavily in the sky. These conditions, while initially seeming to provide cover, would prove ideal for American air attacks. As if to underscore the mission's hopelessness, no air cover had been provided. Every available Japanese aircraft had been dispatched to Okinawa in a separate, equally desperate operation. As Yamato steamed south, her massive hull cutting through the waves, American intelligence was already tracking her movements. The U.S. Navy, having broken Japanese naval codes earlier in the war, knew not only of Yamato's sortie, but also of her intended destination. As word spread through the American fleet, a sense of anticipation built. This was to be more than just another battle. It would be the ultimate test of air power versus sea power, of David versus Goliath. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through naval history. On one side stood the Yamato, a floating fortress of steel and fire embodying centuries of naval tradition. On the other, squadrons of American aircraft, seemingly fragile in comparison, but armed with a new doctrine of warfare that had already changed the face of naval combat. As Yamato plowed on towards her destiny, neither her crew nor her American adversaries could have fully grasped the historical significance of the coming battle. This clash would not just decide the fate of a single ship or mission, it would definitively answer questions that had lingered since the attack on Pearl Harbor. Could air power truly dominate the seas? Was the era of the battleship finally at an end? As dawn broke on April 7, 1945, the skies above the American carriers hummed with anticipation. Hundreds of engines roared to life, their collective rumble a testament to the unprecedented air operation about to unfold. Pilots climbed into their cockpits, steeling themselves for the long-range mission ahead. Their target, the mighty Yamato, pride of the Japanese Navy and the largest battleship ever built. The American strike force was a formidable assemblage of naval air power. Curtiss Helldivers, with their distinctive dive-bombing capabilities, formed the tip of the spear. Flanking them were the gull-winged Vought Corsairs, ready to provide fighter cover and ground attack support. But it was the Grumman Avenger torpedo bombers that held the key to bringing down such a massive target. These aircraft, products of years of wartime innovation and hard-learned lessons, were about to face their ultimate test. As the planes took off in waves, the enormity of their task weighed heavily on the pilots. The mission briefing had been clear. They were to intercept and destroy a floating fortress of steel, a ship that many believed to be unsinkable. The sheer audacity of the plan was not lost on these men. They were, in essence, modern-day Davids preparing to face a mechanical Goliath. The challenges ahead were daunting. The distance to the target pushed the limits of their fuel capacity, leaving little margin for error. Many of these pilots had never faced a ship as large or as well defended as the Yamato. Intelligence reports painted a picture of a vessel bristling with anti-aircraft guns, its armor seemingly impenetrable to conventional attacks. As they flew south over the vast expanse of the Pacific, tension mounted. Would their tactics, honed through years of naval air combat, be enough to overcome such a formidable foe? Hours into the flight, a cry went up from the lead planes. On the horizon, a dark smudge had appeared, the Yamato and her escort. As they drew closer, the true scale of their target became apparent. Even from the air, the battleship was an awesome sight. Its massive guns, capable of hurling shells the weight of small cars, seemed to defy the very notion that aircraft could pose a threat to such a behemoth. The moment of truth had arrived. As the first waves began their attack runs, the sky filled with bursting flak and the angry trails of tracer fire. The American pilots pushed forward, their training kicking in as they maneuvered through the deadly barrage. Helldivers peeled off into near-vertical dives, releasing their payloads with precision. Corsairs strafed the decks, suppressing anti-aircraft fire, and the Avengers, carrying their lethal torpedoes, skimmed low over the waves, seeking to exploit the Yamato's underwater vulnerabilities. Wave after wave of aircraft descended upon the Yamato, each group coordinating their attacks to maximize effectiveness. The sheer scale of the American assault was staggering, hundreds of planes swarming around the battleship like angry hornets. From the decks of the Yamato, it must have seemed like the sky itself had turned against them. As bombs fell and torpedoes streaked through the water, a realization began to dawn on both sides. This was more than just another battle. It was a pivotal moment in naval warfare. The outcome would determine not just the fate of a single ship, but the future of naval combat itself. As the American planes descended upon the Yamato, the sky erupted in a furious storm of anti-aircraft fire. The mighty battleship, once thought invincible, now faced its ultimate test. Tracers streaked through the air, creating a deadly lattice of fire that seemed impenetrable. Yet, for all its ferocity, this impressive display of firepower masked a critical weakness that would soon spell doom for the pride of the Japanese Navy. The initial moments of the attack were a cacophony of chaos and destruction. Yamato's crew scrambled to their stations, manning an impressive array of defensive weaponry. 50 Type 96 triple-barrel 25mm mounts, along with various other calibers, bristled along the ship's massive hull. As the first wave of American aircraft approached, the ship's guns roared to life, filling the air with a hail of shells and bullets. However, appearances can be deceiving. Despite the overwhelming volume of fire, Yamato's gunners faced an insurmountable challenge. Many had less than 1 hour of training, a shocking revelation that exposed the desperate state of Japan's naval defenses. The speed and agility of the attacking planes, combined with the inexperience of the gunners, rendered their efforts almost futile. It was, as one American pilot later described, like swatting bugs with a sledgehammer. As the battle raged on, the bravery of the American airmen became increasingly apparent. Wave after wave of aircraft pressed their attacks, diving through the maelstrom of anti-aircraft fire with unwavering determination. Helldivers plummeted from the sky, releasing their payloads with pinpoint accuracy. Corsairs strafed the decks, suppressing the ineffective AA batteries. And the Avengers, carrying their lethal torpedoes, skimmed low over the waves, seeking to exploit Yamato's vulnerabilities. The damage began to mount. At 12:45 p.m., the first torpedo struck home, flooding the outboard engine room and causing a list of 5 to 6 degrees. A 250-kilogram bomb hit starboard frame 150, destroying 3 12.7-centimeter anti-aircraft mounts and punching a 22-ton hole in the weather deck. The damage control team, rushing to respond, suffered heavy casualties in the blast. As more torpedoes found their mark, Yamato's fate hung in the balance. The ship's list increased dramatically, reaching a perilous 22 to 23 degrees to port. This severe tilt not only hampered the ship's maneuverability, but also rendered many of its guns useless. In a final act of defiance, the crew raised the Z flag, signaling their intention to fight to the last. Aboard the stricken battleship, the situation grew increasingly desperate. The crew, realizing the gravity of their predicament, attempted to counteract the flooding by opening valves on the starboard side, but it was a losing battle. The damage was too extensive, the list too severe. As water poured into the mighty vessel, it became clear that the era of the battleship was coming to a violent end. The American attack had exposed a fundamental shift in naval warfare. Yamato, with all its armor and firepower, was powerless against the swarms of aircraft that continued to assail it. The sheer volume of torpedoes and bombs delivered with precision from beyond the range of the ship's guns proved that air power had decisively surpassed surface combatants as the dominant force at sea. As the battle reached its crescendo, the once mighty Yamato began to succumb to the relentless American assault. The pride of the Japanese Navy, designed to withstand multiple attacks, now listed heavily at a perilous 22 to 23 degree angle. Water poured into its compromised compartments, fire rooms, and engine rooms, spelling doom for the floating fortress. The massive guns that had once promised dominance over the seas fell silent, rendered useless by the ship's severe tilt. At 2 p.m., a moment of grim finality arrived. Admiral Araga, recognizing the futility of further resistance, issued the fateful order to abandon ship. This command marked not just the end of Yamato, but symbolized the twilight of an entire era of naval warfare. As the realization of their impending doom set in, the crew faced a stark choice. Some, bound by a deep-seated code of honor, chose a path of ultimate sacrifice. According to survivors' accounts, several sailors committed seppuku, believing surrender to be an unthinkable dishonor. This tragic decision underscored the profound cultural beliefs that persisted even in the face of certain death. The final moments of Yamato were nothing short of cataclysmic. At 2:20 p.m., the massive warship capsized with a 120-degree list, its hull groaning under immense stress. What followed was an explosion of such magnitude that it created a mushroom cloud reaching 20,000 feet into the air. The blast was felt up to 200 kilometers away, a testament to the catastrophic destruction of its ammunition stores. As the smoke cleared and the waves settled, the full extent of the human cost became apparent. The casualty figures from the sinking of Yamato were staggering. Approximately 3,000 crew members drowned, many pulled down by the ship's powerful undertow. Only 280 souls survived the disaster, left to bear witness to the end of an era. Survivors recounted harrowing experiences, describing the chaos and desperation of those final moments. Some spoke of being dragged down by the ship's vortex, only to miraculously surface amidst a sea of debris and oil. As rescue efforts commenced, the enormity of the loss began to sink in. Yamato, the ship that was meant to be unsinkable, had succumbed to a new form of warfare. Its demise marked a definitive shift in naval strategy, proving beyond doubt that air power had decisively surpassed surface combatants as the dominant force at sea. The once invincible battleship, with all its armor and firepower, had been rendered obsolete by swarms of seemingly fragile aircraft. Yet, as the smoke dissipated and the waves calmed, questions lingered in the minds of both victors and vanquished. What unseen forces might have contributed to Yamato's demise beyond the realm of conventional warfare? Some whispered of strange phenomena observed during the battle, unexplained lights in the sky, bizarre equipment malfunctions, and eerie calmness in the eye of the storm. These accounts, while unverified, added an air of mystery to an already legendary engagement. The sinking of the Yamato marked the definitive end of the battleship era. This engagement proved beyond doubt that air power had become the dominant force at sea, reshaping naval doctrine worldwide. The future of naval warfare would belong to aircraft carriers and their lethal swarms of planes capable of striking from beyond the horizon. Yet, as the smoke cleared and the waves settled, the human cost of this technological shift became painfully apparent. Thousands of lives were lost in the Yamato's final moments, a stark reminder of the price of progress in warfare. The battle stands as a testament to the bravery of both sides: the American pilots who risked everything to take down a Titan, and the Japanese sailors who fought to the bitter end.